Hello and welcome to JagaVision. We're on episode 133. Today I have a really awesome and special guest that I've been wanting to join me for so long, and I'm so stoked that she's here. We have Christine joining us from both Cultured Kombucha and a somewhat more recent project, the Rock Bay Market here in Victoria.
Sweet, thanks for having me.
Tell everybody a little bit of what's Cultured Kombucha.
I would say the driving sort of inspiration behind Cultured Kombucha was health first. I came at kombucha at the same time I came at fermented foods in general. But kombucha was the most fun for me, so I really sort of stayed to play in that space. And within that, it was like I've always had a healthy focus in my life. I grew up with hippies, vegetarian, uber healthy. Like, you know, it was like there was a gatekeeper at the door. My dad was checking the grocery bags. If I had sweet talked my mom into something, you know, it was like, get that out of here. It's got sugar. No. But and there was a lot of plug your nose and down it kind of meals and experiences. And I think as I got older and spent a lot of time in the fine dining world and restaurants, I really wanted to bring those two worlds together. So Cultured Kombucha is that. It's my attempt to bring sort of that fine dining experience of quality and taste and health together. That is very much my roots. So I was inspired to.
Because it can, like, I guess that's actually an interesting topic to begin with, I guess, is like, just like, I mean, JagaSilk, for those who don't know, we also brew kombucha here, and we love talking about fermentation. I just love good cheeses. I love good wines. I love like a really well done coffee. Like
it was inevitable.
The grasshopper, yeah. And so there's this whole, I think, desire for, at least in my life, I love to just understand kind of deep dives into. I love watching those. Have you ever seen those Business Insider episodes where you can kind of like see people making cheese or baguettes, and like it's just so interesting, right? So I love watching this stuff. I love learning from other, I guess, interested folks in the field and all that stuff. But for me, kombucha, my first experience was definitely something pretty acidic. Yeah, totally. I was like, okay, I get that, you know, like just like a yogurt is supposed to be somewhat of a healthful experience for the belly. I guess I could sort of, I was aware of this healthful component, and so I think that's why I continued to try it out here and there. But it took a while before I found one that I really enjoyed. Yeah. And I think that it's a similar sort of idea as with our, I guess, with our herbal teas too. I've had some really, really unpleasant herbal tisane sort of blends. And it's interesting to sort of have that opportunity to tweak a recipe and make my own herbal blends, and then make it both about that helpful component, but also about the flavor, which is essentially what you were just saying, right? Yeah,
exactly.
So maybe you can talk to us about, like, I guess there's one that's pretty, you brought actually a bunch of things.
I did.
Okay, so we have the Cultured. This is from your tap.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a flavor that hasn't made it to cans yet.
We have the elderflower rose. We have blackcurrant and cranberry, nettles and petals. I really like that one. And then citrus ginger. Okay. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about these. Like,
sure. So I guess first up, when I first started Cultured Kombucha, I started with a couple of flavors. That's what you find in the black and white printed cans. So those are kind of my core classic flavors. Been around for 7 years now. And I knew, you know, when you're embarking on making kombucha, ginger is kind of a must. So we started with the citrus ginger. But it was important, you know, to source organic ginger. You know, again, that experience, every ingredient counts. So simple ingredients, but high quality ingredients. A nice light green tea, lots of lemongrass, lime, orange, and lemon. And then nettles and petals is kind of become the most popular flavor that we make. It's got a bit of a cult following. People kind of go crazy for it. And this was one of those like magical moments in the brewery where it was like, I'm going to make a new flavor and I'm going to just go with my gut. I'm going to just do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And I was taking notes all along the way. And I never changed it after that first time.
Wow. Okay, that's cool.
just kind of was like, that's great. Okay, don't need to change it. So that one, I do tend to lean on citrus. I love citrus. So most flavors have a lot of citrus in it, nettles and petals being one of them, but also a lot of herbals and of course the stinging nettles.
I had it in my head that this was a nettle and like rose, and that was it.
Yeah.
And I guess I never really like
dove into the
yeah,
ingredients.
like we got peppermint and orange peel and bergamot and lavender, kaffir lime, elderflower. That's cool. So you were winging it at the beginning and like, don't you find that's like the best way to do?
That's the best way.
It's like you kind of like, I love learning, like when we were setting up our traditional matcha recipe, we were actually following a tea ceremony teacher around for a little bit, and we actually were like, okay, like she's been doing this for decades, but we didn't know where to start, right? And she weighed things for us.
Yeah.
Like that she could do by feel for decades.
Wow.
You know, and that was cool. And like, you know, like really good pasta.
Yes.
Like people just like do it by feel.
Yes.
But like when you get like a master and you can like weigh what they're doing, it's really interesting. So when you were taking notes, are you a big believer in maths?
Yeah, I do actually know. I am.
Okay.
I am, but because I grew like just with my way I grew up at home, definitely more tablespoons and cups. I had to transition to maths because I knew.
Because I wouldn't ask you, of course I know.
No.
but like just the method, like how would you keep that consistent?
Well, we have transitioned to maths now. Okay. But to start with, because that's just the way I could flow, it was definitely like teaspoons, like, another teaspoon, another teaspoon, another tablespoon.
But it's working. And I don't know, like I'm not like, it's not like I have nettles and petals like all the time, but like I've had it throughout the years, and personally I haven't noticed some sort of there seems to be like there's one thing that I have noticed is that I liked it before, but I like it more now.
Interesting.
So I don't know if there's like I feel like maybe it's my tongue, but there's like this I think it's the sweetness level is more where I'm at.
Everything's gone drier.
Yeah,
I've taken everybody on a journey from the day I started.
Yeah.
Because I think probably a lot of commercial producers experience something similar where they're making something at home and it was like, wow, that's so good. And then they sent it to the lab and they were like, holy shit, I'm making soda, which is what happened to me. And I was like, oh, that's so not what I want to be doing. Right. So I've, taken people on a journey and continue to just like, well, just drop it a little bit more.
Okay.
Let's just drop it a little bit more. Do we miss it? Nope. Do we miss it? Anybody missing it? Nope.
So are you controlling that with just like a reduction in sugar, or are you fermenting a little longer, or is it a combination of both?
Combination of both for sure. Like we transitioned from definitely taking what goes in initially out, but we have transitioned our whole brewing process in the last couple of years to something totally different, being, from a 10 to 12 days to a 30-day ferment.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's different.
Yeah.
So when I'm brewing, we've started more recently to divide up our brews a little bit, and we talk about them as it's just kind of an internal language. We call it a discrete brew, where it's like it has a definitive start and finish.
Yeah.
And then more industry language, we have a continuous brew that we're working on, where we're just taking a bit and returning, taking a bit and returning. And it's kind of interesting to see. We just did this test it's a very recent thing. All along, we've been doing a very like definitive start and stop to our fermentations. But in certain environments, like it'll be done from a pH and Brix perspective in 5, 6, 7 days.
Yeah.
But the SCOBY is like not healthy enough.
Yeah.
That is how do you balance the health of the SCOBY with these long brew? Like, do you just
we brew starter specifically for starter.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So then you can kind of get around. Yeah, I guess that's so. What we did more recently is we added starter right before we did a cold crash. And then we did a really long cold crash. And it was really interesting.
Oh, that's cool. What happened?
I'll get a bottle. This hasn't had a chance to develop yet. What we started doing is we put the pH and the Brix on the bottle.
Cool.
So that we can kind of track that internally as well. And normally I wouldn't drink mine first before the guests, but I don't
since
know.
We're talking about it.
But it might be, I don't know, like it might be, I don't know if this is drier or not. If it's drier, this is perfect to drink it first, right?
And work your way. Yeah.
But I don't want to, You know what I'll do? I'll get us some sparkling water.
Because I'm a specific gravity, not a bricks.
Yeah.
Do you have a, we could compare.
Yeah.
Because what is 5.4 in terms of specific gravity? Do you know how it translates?
5.2. We have our.
They're on the, do you have one of the
thing? I have an in-house scientist. Hey, Mr. Varani. If you had a 5.2 bricks, what would that equal to for specific gravity? Do you know?
I would have to plug it into a calculator.
Could you do that for us real quick?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're gonna figure that out.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, okay, amazing. So what is, are you aware of the difference? I don't quite understand the difference between specific gravity and bricks. I know that we were just talking about this the other day, that it's like a choice, like it's like Celsius and Fahrenheit.
Yeah, totally. And they do translate, one does translate to the other, but I'm not exactly sure. I don't know. They're both on my reader, but I use the specific gravity. It's just what, and then I always work to the same specific gravity for the finish.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know what is one over the other. Yeah. Definitely bricks is more specific to sugars, I believe, a little bit more specific.
Okay. Yeah, because I know it measures like refraction of light, right? Whereas we were talking about how hydrometers measure density.
Density. Oh, yes. But it's still on my meter. Like the bricks is still there.
Interesting.
So it's readable.
Okay. It's like, okay. This is interesting.
Okay.
5.2 bricks is 1.0205 specific gravity.
1.02. Oh, we're pretty close.
Are we?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're pretty close.
Would you start with mine, or would you start with yours, knowing that my bricks is sitting around, or my
yours
specific gravity is 1.0205? So am I a little sweeter than you?
I think a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So why don't we start with yours?
Okay, and this is a nice light one. I think this is a good.
Okay, good. Okay. Let's do it. Oh yeah, because this time it was a mix. We added our starter at the end. We were finding that when we added it at the beginning, that it was like we put the SCOBY in, so we get the pH to the level,
the safe
level. But we were finding that when we added it to begin with, it was just way too active.
Right.
And another key difference, I guess, between our brewing programs is that we're working with honey.
Yes.
Yeah. And
totally. And it's easier to access. It's easier for the culture to access the sugars and honey. It's already kind of broken apart. Whereas like the SCOBY for us that's first job is to break apart the sugar into its various components and then starts consuming.
So that's okay. Cheers. And again, we are drinking
Nettles and Petals.
Nettles and Petals. Okay. So let's, you can see that color. I have to tell you, it looks and smells amazing. Wow. Oh yeah, I get a lot of rose.
For sure, the rose is definitely prominent, and sometimes the peppermint on the intake of a breath is where it shows itself, that cooling effect.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I hear I get what you're throwing down. Yeah.
And sometimes the combo of the two, depending on the age of it, I get a real, like this is an older one, but we just canned it yesterday and I get a bubble gum flavor. The peppermint and the rose come together and I'm like, ooh, bubble gum.
Okay. This is a pretty fresh batch.
This one is older than, we just canned it up yesterday, but we give 5 months. So
I taste pear.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that's like created just through the combination of things, fermentation. But like, kombucha typically has like a appley peary. All kombuchas, I feel like that is
like there's not like sometimes we talk about this when we're brewing. Sometimes like, what is apple juice? Like, is it actually apples that we're tasting?
Yeah, does it actually have a flavor?
Or is this because I taste apple juice at a moment in the fermentation and I'm just like, is that just like, what is that?
A certain level of sweetness that we associate with apples, because it is a hard flavor to pin down.
The sweetness. Is it actually an apple flavor?
Yeah.
I know. Messes with my head. It's like chicken in the Matrix. It's like, is this just a computer option and we're all just,
programmed. Apple.
Should I have this after this one, or where are we in the sequence?
I think that's great. I think let's do that one next.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So no, it hasn't had a chance to condition. So this isn't its best form.
Yeah.
It hasn't developed the carbonation yet.
Cool.
But
that's okay. I actually like some like flatter kombuchas.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking how interesting it would be to purposefully make flat kombucha in like a cask.
Totally.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Certain flavors, it would really actually do justice to the flavor. I think better to not have the bubbles.
So excited. I got an oak cask, and I was like, okay, how do you do this? And they're like, first you got to treat it with you don't want it to get too dried out, so you got to treat it with water. And I'm like, okay. So I filled it with water, right? And then I was like storing it that way, and then I came back to it, and like it was all like I created the bad culture inside.
Oh no.
And I'm such a fool. I just never worked with a cask before. You're supposed to spray it from the outside.
Oh.
I'm not supposed to leave water in it to keep it from drying out. You're supposed to just like
from the outside in,
spray it and then just keep it a little moist so it doesn't get bone dry. But I was such a fool.
So that was the end of that.
Yeah, and it was we got it like it says Jaga on it, and
bummer.
Yeah,
now
it can be
like
made in
prop.
North America, like made in Canada, and you can get But I got we were visiting Copper Spirit in Bowen Island.
Okay.
And we did a project with them where they took Artentia and Yuzu. And they made a gin.
Ooh,
yeah, and they
nice.
have copper stills, and they're like super hardcore. Anyway, it worked out where they gave us a cask. So I have a second cask. I'm not going to ruin it this time.
Yeah, you know what to do.
This one's from Kentucky.
Cool.
So it's used literally for bourbon.
Yeah.
And so it's going to have that bourbon flavor, but I think that'd be cool, right?
I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah,
with the black tea, maybe.
Yeah. And I want to kind of experiment with it a bit. So cheers.
Cheers.
You can see there's
some bubble.
There's some bubble, right? That's like, I love natural carbonation because the bubbles are so beautiful.
They're so fine. Yeah.
So.
Well, and they're like, it's a different experience in your mouth. It's special, like champagne bubbles. They're all different. You can tell if it's natural bubbles or not, because if the bubbles are all uniform, it's forced carbonated.
Yeah. So this is made with a Jean Luo, so golden snail. It's sometimes translated as.
Yummy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not quite rolling on the tongue.
No.
Almost.
We're almost there. I say give it 2 weeks. Or even a few days out of the fridge, and it would be there.
That's crushable. When they're flat, it is like on a hot day.
Yeah,
it's crushable. Okay, it's so hydrating. Yeah, it's yummy.
Does that work? So that's like, I'm like a big. I remember talking to you about this when we were talking at the tea festival. I was like, I'm so into original flavor. Is this gonna happen now? You were saying Rock Bay, maybe there's a market. Are we gonna have like as much as I love the creative work that you have here with all these beautiful flavors, is that on the agenda?
It's so on the agenda. I can't wait. We're gonna invite you
Sweet.
to speak. We're gonna make it one with your tea.
Oh wow.
Okay. So what we're going to do is experience it in all the ways you can experience it. Or I'm sure there's more ways, but these are the ways we're going to do it. We're going to do a cold infusion, a hot infusion, and a fermentation, a kombucha of maybe 3 to 4 different teas.
Oh, wow.
And
That's cool.
And then just see. I don't know yet. I'm not even going to play around too much ahead of time. In some ways, we're going to make them and then experience them. I'm not going to put any preconceived notions, but I suspect we will, certainly with fermentation, will be quite different. But the cold and the hot, and the food that we eat with it, and how that we're going to have our chef from Rock Bay Market make some little bites to go with each one.
Oh, so cool.
And then sort of have a bite, have a taste, and just sort of see, what different flavors that come out.
So when you say my tea, are you going to use a sencha?
A sencha.
Okay. So what I've tried and failed.
Okay.
The sencha has a lot of nitrogen in it. And that makes it just like rocket ship fermentation.
Interesting.
And I don't know how to harness that, except if it's drunk quickly. Like you make little bits that don't last.
Even if you cold crush it.
This is even with cold crushing. So I don't know. Maybe there's a way. Maybe we're just using. One of the things I was thinking about is there might be a way to just use less tea than I do. Like maybe I've been one of the interesting things about bricks meters that I think is going to help with our fermentation is I want to measure the extraction of the cold brew. Because we do a cold brew, right?
Yes.
And just dial it in. Like I think we've been finding 0.4, 0.5 on the bricks meter is tasting really good. But with senchas, depending on the origin, you get massive variation in that extracted sort of measurable bricks. So it would be interesting to adjust the tea level to meet the needs of the bricks. And we can deal with honey too. So we've been finding that using a Brix meter for that is really helpful too, because of course the bees don't have MB labs hanging out next door where they can send a package and get their percentage of honey to water
How's
approved.
this?
Like, it's just, are we ready to
How are
cap?
we doing?
Are we ready to cap the honeycomb?
Cone, yeah.
You know, so there is variation,
Variant.
and it can be actually significant. Like, we're talking 5% either way.
Totally.
And then that's going to affect, of course, the fermentation. If you use 5% more or less sugar, I imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what we did. Yeah, when we dialed it back, we took 10% out, and made a big difference. Yeah, so 5% for sure. But you have two things you can play with. I would consider, like, when you think about the food sources, right? The tea and the tannins and the sugar, of course. But you could play with like less honey up front. Did you ever consider a little bit of back sweetening at the end? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could give it less juice to start
in the
with.
beginning, and we were like scared of bottle bombs. Oh my God, this is just way, like, we thought we needed to back sweeten so that we could get carbonation.
Yeah.
But that ended up being really problematic. But maybe we were just doing too much. I don't know.
Yeah, or like back sweeten after you've cold crashed.
Right. Because we're on batch number. We've started to advertise that, but just as the first bottle that says the batch number on the top. So we're on batch number 1175, and that is only possible because we did so many batches in little tiny crocks.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Totally.
Like, we were doing everything in these ceramic crocks, it was just insane. But we learned a lot. But I don't know how much of that knowledge is transferable to the bigger scaling up. Because scaling up must have changed everything for you too, right? Like, you said you're working with mass now, but weren't before. The scale up probably played a major role in making this transition. Yeah,
it did. And I would say, like, we're still using both, because I'm like still clinging to the that concern, right? Sure. For that reason, we're gonna do it both ways.
Okay, just have like the check. Okay, good. I like to tell people scales are more of a confirmation. It's like you can check water temperature pretty good for your bath water, but a thermometer is going to give you a little bit more resolution.
Yeah, precision.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't know, like, maybe back sweetening then, which caused all sorts of problems. We just couldn't. It was just too small of a batch, so that just minor fluctuations in, the amount of honey was just going to have a bigger effect. So
I'd be curious, like, but it's tricky because you're conditioning. Because I would say, okay, ferment it to where you like it, cold crash it, but ferment it to like way less sugar than you like it.
Yeah.
Because way less goes in, ferment more out, cold crash it, and then back sweeten it. But then to bottle condition, you need some of this. You're playing this battle because you need to bottle condition. You need yeast. Yeah. But yeast are trouble. Unstable.
Yeah. Because canning, like, sometimes I dream about it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I don't know how I would do that.
That's precisely why I changed the entire way. From the ground up, I had to completely change the way I made it. Because in kegs, it was like we were always struggling with we had 30 days on fruity flavors. It was like before, it was like, oh, it's over carbonated. Okay, you got to purge the keg, and you could manage it, right?
Yeah.
Rock purge. Okay, we're good to go. Yeah. Can't do that in a can. And so when I first started, it was 30 days. They were rock hard, and they were like bombs. In the beginning, we were like, so many cans. We're like, well, let's open them and put them in kegs. I was like, this is not sustainable. So I just had to redesign the way we fermented to make them stable. So we went from 30 days to 5 months.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's tricky for you with this, like, because
I've been able to, when my recipe's dialed in, I get 4 months in the fridge.
Nice.
I get 7 days of travel out of the fridge.
Yeah. Okay.
So, but that's through really careful log grading and like tons of yeast removal. And we do a lot of like clean it, chill it, clean it. And then we get this like really like, this is actually probably a bit hazier if you look at that.
I love little haze.
But it's hazier than we want it. And I mean, I'm sure yours, may I? Okay. This is the next one I should try?
Yeah, maybe this one.
Okay.
No, okay, yes.
If we're going for like clarity of liquid.
Clarity. This one's not clear.
Okay, well then. Let's just have fun. Let's have a fun one.
Okay, this is hops. Citra hops.
Okay. Yeah, I have this dream of doing doing a beer kombucha. So this is part of the.
Not too bad, but a little bit.
We had an herbal tea that I always wanted to do with kombucha, which was hops, licorice, and holy basil.
Oh, I love holy basil.
Yeah,
Cheers.
right. Cheers. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's a nice color. Yeah. Yeah, not too bad.
No.
Oh.
Is that hazier? I don't even know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's a darker color.
Similar though.
Yeah,
If you put your
it's
finger behind
similar.
it, Light.
For sure.
Yeah. Huh. Okay. Well, that smells nice. Nice fruity hops.
Mhm.
You didn't cook the hops. That's
they're,
dry hop.
They're dry hops, yeah.
For those watching, if there's any beer drinkers, you probably already know this, but if you use hot water on your hops, you're going to bring out some pretty intense bitters.
Yeah.
So to be able to bring out more fruit, it's often a technique to just
Dry hop, yeah.
which is basically a cold brew.
Yeah,
right?
cold brew, exactly.
In the fermentation.
Yeah, and kombucha is such a good extractor for flavors. So to just let the hops soak in the kombucha pulls a lot of the flavors and just controlled with time, you get limited bitterness, which I think is important for kombucha because it just doesn't have the backbone of all those carbs from the grains like a beer to balance out the bitterness. Like it can become an unpleasant bitter for kombucha.
We used to have on our bottles something called an oxymel, where we were pulling from sort of Greek medicinal theory on extraction, where you'd have like a mel being honey, like water, honey extraction. I think that's what it is. And you would have this opportunity to pull out sort of the medicinal properties of things by doing this. But it got really challenging to work with, and we didn't think we were actually getting as good of an extraction as we were when we did just the cold water extraction. But there's a part of me that really wants to do our cold infusions using the brew.
Definitely, the acidity in the kombucha, it pulls out flavors in a way. I've had people say, like, we did a wild rose in the summer and kombucha, and we soaked wild rose petals in kombucha, and the pure rose flavor that you get from it is crazy.
Really
Yeah.
Oh, that's really
It's worth
interesting.
exploring.
What am I drinking?
This is the citra hops in a sort of a green tea, a similar base as the citrus ginger. Lots of citrus in there with lemongrass and green tea.
Is that lemon?
There's lemon, there's lime, and there's orange in there. They have the same tea and fruit base. And then BC citra hops.
Green tea, do you use pan-fired teas or do you prefer the Japanese style steam?
I use both actually, rolled and we use all kinds. It depends on the brew.
Okay, so you switch up and you have like a different sort of tea that does. I find that so interesting. So we switch our tea and then we just kind of brew with that tea for a while, and then I find that my first time brewing with that tea is so different from like 3 or 4 times down. And then it sort of finds like a stability. I kind of look at
equilibrium.
Yeah,
I agree.
I look at it like a freight boat in my head. It's like you make a change and you won't really taste it until it's had a chance to like make this turn.
Yeah, right. It's a slow turn.
Yeah, and then it's like 3 or 4 batches down the road, and it's like, oh wow, that's like really intense. I need to fix that, and then you try and fix it. But if you fix it too hard,
little adjustment,
then it goes here, and if it swerves too much this way, things get really out of hand really fast.
It's like a grind on espresso. It's like, oh, just a little bit. Let's see, just a little bit.
And then just like, okay, 2 or 3 batches this way, and then okay,
settled in.
Okay.
Everybody okay? Yeah. Everybody survived.
So I have huge respect for multiple lines. Like I can't wrap my head around. Like we just do one, right?
Yeah.
And it's terrible at supermarkets because, of course, there's a huge demand. Like to get shelf space.
Yeah.
Having more UPC code.
It's true.
Gets you more facing.
Yeah.
And we just have one. So I'm always like, it's 24 in a case, so
put 5 out.
Yeah. and then people will buy it. But if you ever go to the supermarket, generally JagaSilk, if it's there,
it's the one.
It's just one, and it's like up here, and it doesn't have its price tag or something.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I am going to be doing something different today. We're actually going to break up the episode into 2 parts. So when you're done this section, join us for the next section.